Next part, let's create the interior. You know, and I could very easily just put a mesh in there, but we should do this right in case we want to take this apart later. So the thing is, I want to actually copy these polygons of that base mesh, and I don't want to do it by duplicating this because that duplication will still be part of that MeshFusion tree. I want to add a new one in, but I want that exact shape. So the way to do that is go to polygon mode, double click, and you can actually see the whole shape there. Because remember, it's this MeshFusion down here that is the final result of all these elements put together. So I'm going to copy these polygons, just Command C or Control C on my keyboard, add a new mesh item, and Command or Control V to paste. And I just pasted down my original mesh, so that's great. We will call this inside cut, and then I'm going to right click and duplicate it, and then we're going to call this inside mesh. And we'll come back to that one in a minute, so I'll turn off visibility. For the inside cut, let's press the R key for scale, and we're going to scale that down just a little bit. And let's take a look at that preview. Yeah, that's pretty good. What I'm doing is I'm actually looking right in here. We want to cut underneath there, because you see how that mesh screen is underneath, it's not actually touching. That's what we're going to do. Alright, so we just scaled that down a little bit. How do we add that in? Very easily. Just open up a little bit so I can see my tree. Take that inside cut, make sure you're in item mode. Inside cut, click, hold, and drag to our subtraction tree, which is the bottom one. And we just cut out the inside. And check this out. Look how fun that is. So think about if you're building machinery or parts, or you want to animate something in a certain way. Now you've got a shell that you can work with. You know, so you couldn't really do things like this in the past. You could cut it out. You can build it hollow, use a thicken tool, but you couldn't really get this amount of detail all right on the sides here, how it picks up the highlights with those bevels and so on. Alright, so that's working pretty well. Let's turn off that cut. See that? Okay. Let's go to the inside mesh now. And we're going to press R for scale. We're just going to scale that down. But I want to scale down enough so that I can see a little bit of separation. Oops. Don't do that. Between that edge right there. And that might be a little too much, so let's go back up just a little bit. And this way, just like this image here, that mesh layer is going to be on the inside. And when we put our textures on, we'll create that mesh, that screen, but we just want to be able to see underneath it. So that looks pretty good. So there is that interior. The next thing, we have to actually add this. Okay, so which one is that? We've been doing a lot of subtraction. Click, hold, and drag, and go to that top part of the tree. And that blends that in. Alright. Now the only reason I did that, because it really didn't need to be done, it's really not touching anything necessarily, but we need it to be part of this final MeshFusion object. We just want it all one. And what's really neat about this is we can save this scene and we can go back to any of these cuts anytime we want and make changes, update the edits, and so on. And just like I showed you earlier, update the scale and everything else. So the final part of this, aside from cutting out the back and putting a stem on the bottom, is getting this bar down the center and making sure that we have change going on right here. So look what happened. All of these connected all the way across, but these two in the center should have actually stopped. Well, that's not much of a problem. All we have to do is come back here to our polygons, Control Space to a front view, Shift A to fit, and let's go ahead and figure out which ones those are. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, so it's these two right here. And we'll select those. We'll go to polygon mode, that one and that one. So all we really need to do is just press the R key for scale and let that draw. There we go. Starting to slow down just a little bit. And the reason I'm going to scale it is because I want that round edge right there, just like that. Then I'll press W for move. And let's move that over. I might have to scale it out a little bit more. And then we're going to bring that back. All right, now it's starting to really slow down. So what I'm going to do is we're going to turn off a lot of these other elements if we can. And we don't want to turn this one off because we can't see anything. But if you open it up, you'll actually see our union, our strips, everything else in there. The union being the inside, so we can turn that off. And that should give us a little bit more control. I'll reselect these again. R key for scale. And I want to be scaling these out just a little bit more. There we go. And then W. And move them just a little bit so we make sure that they get to the edge like the others. And control space to a perspective view. And let's just make sure. Yep. We just have to get to the outside like that so that it evens out these cuts all the way down. And then from there, Shift V, go right in the center, click and drag up. And now we've mirrored those polygons, and as they mirror, they cut. And let's take a look at this in advanced viewport. And I should save too. But that should give you a better idea of what we just did, just by mirroring and using very simple tools. Okay, so that's pretty good, but how do we get that little shape there? Well, we just have to shape that. And realistically, I should have probably done that before we cut them. So I can do it once and then duplicate those. So control space back to a front view. And I'm just going to select these polygons again. And let's just do the first one. Press the G key, that centers where my mouse is, and then I can press the period key to zoom in. And all I really need to do is maybe even use an element move. So press the T key, right mouse to create a range. And the range is actually down here on the bottom left. You can actually put that in. Okay, that's pretty good. And then I can click and drag just like that. Just to shape it a bit. Okay, so all I'm doing is actually shaping that polygonal cut, which too often people think you really can't do, but you can, because that is the beauty of MeshFusion. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of time. I need to get in there and just really kind of tweak it, but you can see how I'll do that there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this one, cut those away, just get rid of them all together. I'm going to duplicate this one, so we'll get rid of this cut too. I'm going to finesse this one, clean it up, I'll copy it down, and then we'll mirror it over again. And that way we have our angled center, just like that.